Alright, let's make sure this is going. So, okay, cool. Okay, so we're just gonna be working on the unicorn. Figured you guys might like to watch and learn something a little bit. So to catch you up, got a unicorn that is going to be a miniature, 32 millimeter scale, and that means a regular sized human is going to be standing about right here. If it was standing on the same base, this will not be a base attached to the unicorn. It's just merely to get the pose, make sure the hooves are sitting flat. So you can kind of see the pose so far. And right now, I'm working on this mane right here. So I'll kind of talk through what I'm doing, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. So big thing with this mane that I'm also going to try to do is work as a counterbalance, same with the tail. So the tail will be sticking out a little bit further since it's more forward heavy. The mane is going to come out bigger as I finish these bits, and that way it can pull some of this weight back and give a bit better of a stance. Probably going to size these hooves up as well to give it a bigger standpoint. Probably about right here from the ankle point. Yeah, that's the ankle part of the horse, to those of you who didn't know. Where I'm referring to is the ankle anyway, because you got down here where it goes to the ball joint, and then essentially the finger, end of the finger or end of the toe, where the hoof takes place. So let's get into it. I'm start using standard brush. I've changed the intensity down to 18, and I'm using alpha 18. This helps to get these kind of creases in here, and each of these is on polygroup that I am dynameshing as I go along to help clean up the geometry. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do, let's see, that purple one's almost finished. We just got to go on this side. And so if we go to each of the bases of these hair clumps, goes all the way in, that way we can get it watertight model when it's all said and done. And if you go to opacity, turn on ghost mode over here, it makes it to where as you're sculpting, you can drag this down into, we're going to mask the others. So I just went and used my hotkey for rotate and clicked, and using control, clicked on the mesh that I want, so the rest become masked. Anyway, so I can drag this all the way down, and that gives this kind of bowing out shape down here where the hair is coming out from, and then do the reverse, and that gives us kind of our odd hair textures. I'm just going to drag it through, creating these hairlines. So just keep kind of sculpting along. This is going to be a short stream, by the way. It's only going to go for about 30 minutes-ish. Okay, and then I can turn that off to get a better view of what that looks like. Nice. Except I want this to come out more, and this to come in. Also, the smooth I'm using is smooth directional. I have that saved up because I use it so much, but if you don't, you can go into Spotlight, Brush, and where is it? No, it's here somewhere. There it is, Smooth. Folder up here, and Smooth Directional. So And I use the comma key to open that up. What that's going to do is it's going to help align the geometry and the smoothness in the direction I'm going. So if I go this way, it's going to smooth with the hair. If I go this way, it's going to go across. You can kind of see the difference that's going to do. So then using dam standard, brush D, dam standard right there. For those of you who haven't watched me before, I tend to stick to my hotkeys, especially while I'm sculpting, because it's just faster. If you're starting out, I highly encourage you to make your own hotkeys. We're going to pull this out a little more. Okay, that is looking good. And so just using Alt to push some of this in while we drag other parts out. And then Control-click, change our mask. Drag that down into the neck. Okay. That will work. So now we move on to the next one. So this one is kind of where all these started, is just a squiggle that I copied down. And then I'm going to use the move and the rotate while using the transpose line so that I can get these different curves in it. So if I'm on rotate, I'm going to hold Alt on the end. I'm going to use that to curve that part. And then with move, pull that out, and it's going to move it along a curve with these two anchor points. So let's say that I want this curve right here to be moved, but not right here. I'm just going to click and then drag to the other point, and then Alt again in the middle, and I can use that to adjust this curve a little bit. And then if I want just the tip to be repositioned, just this transpose line, you want to make sure that these crossbars are at the base and not where you actually want to move if you're working on kind of the tip point, because now I can go Alt and I can move that tip where I want it. Okay. So that quickly got a slightly different shape. Now I'm going to go ahead and take and move this to a better anchor point. Just like that. Smooth it down. Let's take a look over here real quick. So see if I can make it to where I can see comments at all. Okay, anyway. So if you are commenting, I apologize, I can't see it right now. Anyway, so then I'm just going to continue to drag this down as I am sculpting to get this. And you really want to be aware of, so holding spacebar and pulling this up because it's faster. You really want to be aware of where it's touching, so you have these thin parts of the end of the hair clumps, but you don't want to have them too far out, especially if you're making something intending to have painting done to it, because it's going to make a weak point or a more challenging spot for somebody to paint on, and you don't want to create more work or more of a struggle for the end user. Okay. Invert. I'm just going to kind of sculpt this one out right here. Just kind of going along and sculpting these hairs in place. This alpha, by the way, alpha 18, is so useful for doing this. It makes a nice curve, but there's also a bit of a point, so that you can see it right there really well. So it creates some really good geometry that's going to show up really nice when you're taking this to 3D printing. All right. Now this spot right here, I'm going to go ahead and show you this now. This is going to be a pain for printing because it's a small pocket. Depending on your orientation of your print, it's going to be really, really bad. So I'm just going to inflate to fill that in. And same with this. So that will still show up as a good line when it's being printed, but it's not going to make it difficult for printing. And that'll be a final step I go through when I'm getting this ready for print. Okay, so let's move back to this one. And that's something else I noticed personally, is if I can fix something as I see it, just take a quick second to alter it, I'm going to. It makes it a lot easier to fix it as you're seeing it than doing it later. Okay, so now I'm getting some chunkier geometry right there, so I'm just going to go out and Dynamesh, control drag. That'll clean that up, gives it a little bit more. Okay, let's smooth that out. Okay, and this gap I'm not worried about right now because I haven't moved this hair clump yet, so I'm not going to stress about that one too much. Now if you want to get a sharper, so let's say I want this hair clump to go over this section, all I'm going to do is mask it and invert the mask, and then I just sculpt over right there, and that's going to help create these sharper points without going too sharp, so it's going to print better and still keep that detail and still keep that texture that you might be trying to create. Okay. All right, let's take a look over here. Okay. So it's just taking a quick look at my reference to see where these, see how narrow on the neck these hairs go in. And they actually fan out. They do go along the spine, but they also stick out a little bit more. It's not quite as narrow. Okay, that looks better. Okay, I'm going to take this, put that over, mask it so I don't go onto that. Okay, now a fun trick, especially with the newer ZBrush, so ZBrush 2022, is this is getting in the way. So if I mask this, invert it, I can hide this mesh either by Control Shift and clicking on which one I want, and then I can slide and drag and that will invert it, slide and drag, it pulls it back. Now the rest of that is out of the way. Alright, I also have a hotkey set up to do that one task. I do it a lot. Now without having the rest of the hairs in the way, I can go in and continue to sculpt this. Gonna use our move tool to kind of adjust the shape somewhat. Just for taste. Also, I don't like how this is going on just this single plane. So I'm going to take the move tool, make those 2 anchor points, and holding Alt, I'm going to pull it down. Along with going here and Alt and pulling up. And smooth that a little bit. Okay, now Control-Shift-Click will bring back all of it, and I can see. So I start at the bottom because of how the hairs are laying on each other. And that is looking pretty good, I think. Yeah, I'm liking that. I do not like this part. I want to pull that up. So just using move. A little more of a dynamic thing. Okay, so now we're going to jump over to the tail real fast. Now the tail is on a different mesh and it is connected to this. So we're going to need to do this one a little bit different. We're going to still using our standard. We're going to do bigger sweeping moves. Because remember, horsetails are long pieces of hair, long bits of hair. And we're not going to worry about the points on the end with this one necessarily yet. So I'm going to have overlap and sweep to the life. Push through it for now. I guess, but that's annoying. Now, something we're going to do with this tail for now. To mask off and use lasso. Down here to tessimate. And we're size. Okay. Adjustment. With a much bigger brush at points for this. Sweep this over to here. Push that in. Is that ZBrush Summit where one of the artists, I think it was one of the artists from I want to say it was from id. They were talking about making horns and how they try to make it bend on every plane, so the X, Y, and the Z plane. I try to do that with hair as well. I think it gives it much better life, much more energy. So I wish I could remember. I'd have to go back and watch the summit that was from, which I highly recommend to everybody. Those ZBrush, if you're using ZBrush, go back and watch the summits. You can definitely learn something, whether you do more just sculpting, whether you do rendering, game design, whichever it is. There's so many good presenters that you can learn a lot from. Okay. so once I get all this done, so I'm going to jump ahead to the last bit, is I actually want to use the snake hook brush. So snake hook right here. And I'm just going to pull out these bits. Okay, now I want to be mindful of where this is at, so I don't go below it. So this part right here is not going to work very well. So masking out the end. Use the move tool. We're just going to pull it all the way out so we can go here. And then rotate with Alt to pull that up. Okay. What I also like to do is I like to use the silhouette up here. That way I can see what this is going to look like from a tabletop perspective. Okay, so again, the legs are way too small. Bottom part up, even though anatomically is correct. It is not going to work for a mini very well, so I want to beef those up. Take a little bit of engineering license, you could say. So I'm going to beef those up, especially from this point down, and widen those out so that it's got a much better base. And you can see right here how delicate that's going to end up being compared to the rest. Whereas the tail is looking really good. I want to pull this out a little bit more though. There we go. Okay, that gives us a nice shape. So if you look at the silhouette, overall, it's looking good. I can drag this out so hopefully it's easier to see. Overall, the silhouette's looking really nice. Even the mane, which has not been taken to this level yet. And if we move into just the mane, it still has a pretty good flow overall from just the generic shapes. And then we just need to work on the more mechanical portion of it. So that wraps up this bit. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hopefully there's some good stuff in there for you to use to continue to sculpt longer hair. Work on some animal sculpts if you are, and especially for miniatures and figurines. If you have any comments, please leave them of something you might want to see, something that you have questions on, and I'll love to take a look at it. Until next time, get out there, create, and I'll catch you in the next video.